Back in my previous existence, I was the ultimate hopeless romantic, pushing everyone away just for Mia. For a decade, she and I bunked in a basement, dealing with the struggles of munching on the barest meals, building everything from the ground up and climbing from nothing to achieving success. But even with all that unwavering dedication, the only thing I got in return was her betrayal. Still, I was stubborn, even dumb enough to think I could get back at her by ending my own life. I did it, but instantly regretted it. Luckily, I got a second shot, a rebirth with my original body. This time around, I'm set on saving my foolish, love-blinded self, keeping him away from that deceitful chick and crook, and living a better life. Please, Alex, please stay alive. You gotta live. It was on me. I got carried away and got mixed up with Marcus. He was just looking to scam me out of my cash. How could I have hurt you over some sleaze? How can I keep living without you? Might as well take me with you. Maybe when someone dies, everything clears up in their head. Right now, my spirit was floating above, watching Mia, her face covered in tears and snot, and I felt nothing but revulsion. How did I never see how ugly she was? She'd been the campus beauty queen for 4 straight years, always so obsessed with her looks. If it wasn't for her appearance, maybe I wouldn't have loved her for so long. The Grim Reaper, here to take my soul, stood by my bed, watching as Mia clung to my lifeless body, crying her heart out and asking helplessly, "Is your wish not granted? Why are you sticking around, refusing to leave?" Yeah, seeing Mia on my bedside, full of regret and repentance, had always been my fixation, hadn't it? So why was I still refusing to die? I was content the moment I kicked the bucket, wasn't I? My eyes scanned the woman in front of me, slapping her own face while hysterically crying, then shifted to the hospital room door. There stood an older couple, worn out from their trip. The man's hair was totally white, his hand gripping the doorframe with bulging veins. The woman, seeing my body, couldn't even stand and collapsed on the spot. They were my folks, who rushed from our hometown after hearing about my death. They didn't get to see me one last time or hear me speak. I messed up. Thanks to the Grim Reaper, I was reborn. Now I've got the chance to save the version of myself that didn't die in this life. The frustrating part? I was reborn with the same body I had when I died. Right now, I'm dragging my skinny, bone-like frame, struggling to get to the elevator. By the time I made it back to the place I lived in my past life, my hands were shaking as I unlocked the door, drenched in sweat, my clothes soaking through. As soon as the door swung open, the current Alex ran out of the room looking totally shocked. "Mia, you're back?" At that moment, Alex had just come back from the hospital after an endoscopy because of his constant nausea and loss of appetite. He doesn't know yet. Tomorrow, when he goes to get the report, he'll hear the doctor's grim news. His days are numbered. Looking at the lively version of myself in front of me, my eyes filled with tears. I was about to introduce myself when I saw his face change drastically. He grabbed his phone and, with a cautious look, started making a call. "Hello, 911. There's someone suspicious trespassing in my house." Wait, I quickly interrupted, using a weak voice to call out my own name, which was also his. "Let me introduce myself. I'm also Alex. You went to Greenfield Kindergarten, wet the bed at 7, and got spanked by your mom, and hired someone to pretend to be your dad at the parent-teacher meeting when you were 10. Stop. Stop." He hung up the phone, looking at me suspiciously. "Say that again. Who are you?" I told him I was Alex from not-so-distant future, but he didn't buy it. "I get it. Given my current skeletal look, I really don't seem like a good guy. Just call me Old Alex. Based on our ages, I'm a bit older than you." Alex frowned deeply. "Maybe I should take you to the hospital or a shelter." I flatly refused and planted myself on the couch. Refusing to leave, he was pissed. "Dude, this is my house. You showing up out of nowhere is really weird. Your place is huge, and you live here alone. One more person won't hurt." He laughed angrily. "I'm married, okay? When my wife sees you, she's gonna freak out." "Wife? You mean the one who's eager to be Marcus's daughter's stepmom?" Alex was stunned. You, how do you know that? How do you even know about Marcus, the daughter's stepmom? I rolled my eyes. I told you. I'm you from the future. Do you think I don't know what your wife and Marcus are up to? Only then did Alex reluctantly let me stay, though still suspicious. The next day, Alex had to go to the hospital to get his endoscopy report. He called Mia countless times, but all he got was a busy signal. He sat there dumbfounded, clutching his phone, his face pale, not even reacting when I waved my hand in front of his eyes. His clueless, love-blinded, gullible look made me mad. No wonder my good friends from the past eventually stopped talking to me. This stupid, love-addled behavior was just too much. I couldn't hold back. I slapped him across the face. Alex finally snapped out of it, clutching his face in disbelief. You hit me. Yeah, because you look like you deserve it. I already told you. Mia wants to be Marcus's daughter's stepmom. She's too busy for you. Alex's face turned pale. What nonsense are you spouting? Why would she become someone else's stepmom? We're gonna have our own kids. I sighed. This wasn't nonsense in my past life. I called Mia countless times, sent her endless messages, and she ignored every single one. It wasn't until nightfall that she finally replied with a single message. Alex, you're suffocating me. Later, I found out Mia didn't answer my calls or messages because she was having an abortion. She wanted to get rid of our child so she could get back with Marcus and then ditch me. Can you believe how ridiculous that is? Thinking about it now, I really regret not slapping her a few more times in my past life. Seeing Alex's reluctance to believe me, I grabbed him and dragged him to the hospital. Still not convinced. Ah, fine. Let's get your endoscopy report, and then I'll take you somewhere. I'm sorry to tell you this, but the reason for your frequent vomiting is a stomach tumor. Here are your CT and endoscopy reports. It was the same doc who gave me the bad news in my past life. He looked at Alex with a hint of sympathy in his eyes. Alex was stunned, staring blankly at the thin stack of papers in his hands, his mouth moving. How? How much time do I have left? It's hard to say. The pathology suggests stage 4, but based on the CT scan, the spread and metastasis aren't too bad. There's still a chance. My recommendation is to get admitted ASAP for chemo, hoping to reduce the stage and make surgery an option for tumor removal. He walked out of the consultation room in a daze. I followed behind him wearing a mask. Sigh, I remember when I first got this news in my past life, my mind went completely blank. By the time I snapped out of it, I had already dialed Mia's number. But her phone was off, and I couldn't reach her at all. The feeling was pure despair and helplessness. Alex pulled out his phone, his hand trembling as he tried to unlock the screen. When I saw he was about to call that deceitful woman Mia, I snatched the phone from his hand. Since the call wouldn't go through anyway, there's no need for him to feel that repeated disappointment and helplessness. But Alex looked at me with a blank expression. Give me my phone back. No, I won't. If I give it back, you'll just call Mia, won't you? Can't you have some self-respect? You're a man. Stop running to her for every little thing. Can't you live without her? Give me my phone back. Give it back to me. He suddenly exploded, grabbing my shoulders. He shook me violently and yelled at me. His eyes were bloodshot, veins bulging on his neck and forehead. Patients passing by turned to watch us. The pain from his grip was intense. So I forcefully threw the phone to the ground and stomped on it a few times. Let's see how you're going to call her now. He shoved me aside and frantically tried to pick up the pieces of the shattered phone. But as soon as he grabbed the broken screen, I saw a tear fall to the floor. Alex was crying. I let out a long sigh. I struggled to crouch down and gently patted Alex's shoulder. Don't be afraid. I'll be here with you. Honestly, I've never been a particularly strong person. Cutting ties with my parents to marry Mia and running off with her to start a life in Shenzhen was the boldest move I ever made. In my past life, when I found out I had cancer and didn't have much time left, I was just as lost. I was only 30, but the doctors had sentenced me to death. Back then, there was no other me to give me a hug and say, I'll be with you. For Mia, I had pushed almost everyone away. That day, I wandered home like a lost soul, alone. After a lot of struggle, I finally reached Mia and sent her my medical reports. I just wanted to hear a word of encouragement and comfort from the person I loved the most. But she only mocked me, saying it was just a trick to get her to come home and that the photos were poorly edited. Yet I had always suffered from erosive gastritis. Back when we had nothing in Shenzhen, I wrecked my stomach trying to build our business, attending one banquet after another to secure deals. The doc said my cancer was closely linked to that. You could say I got this terminal illness for her and our future. But what was Mia doing at that time? She was getting an abortion, trying to ditch our child so she could be with Marcus again and then divorce me. Can you believe how absurd and ridiculous that is? Looking back now, I deeply regret not slapping her a few more times in my past life. I was about to explain to Alex that clinging to life is better than dying for nothing, when the next moment, Alex lifted his tear-filled eyes to look at me. I don't want to get treated. I was so furious my eyebrows shot up and I pointed at his nose, yelling, "What did you just say? Say that again if you dare." Alex hadn't expected me to be so harsh and hiccuped involuntarily. I said I don't want to get treated. Why? You better have a good reason. And if you dare say it's because of Mia. As my tone grew more dangerous, Alex's expression became increasingly uneasy. Great. I knew this lovesick fool was thinking that. I raised my hand high, really wanting to slap him to death. But he's a cancer patient, more fragile than most, so I couldn't do it. I forced myself to calm down and grabbed the trembling Alex, who was bracing for a hit. Come on, I'm taking you somewhere. I'm going to show you reality. In the quiet, serene atmosphere of a private hospital, I pulled Alex along, heading towards the gynecology ward. Alex was confused. Why are you bringing me here? I kept a stern face and didn't answer. In my past life, about 2 weeks after my cancer diagnosis, Mia came home looking exhausted. While gathering her laundry, I found a hospital admission slip. With trembling hands, I called the hospital to inquire. A nurse with a gentle voice informed me that Mia had undergone an abortion at their facility 2 weeks earlier. It's hard to describe how I felt then. It was even more devastating than when I learned about my cancer. From that moment on, I started hating Mia, thinking I could use my life to get back at her. But after I died, I deeply regretted it because she wasn't worth sacrificing my life for. After my death, all I got from her were a few crocodile tears, nothing else. So I needed the Alex of this life to see clearly and do it early. Mia, at her core, is nothing but a deceitful woman. His current feelings of loss, pain, insecurity, and even his stubbornness, they're all meaningless. Nothing is more valuable than life itself. I knew that revealing all this to Alex, especially when he'd just received a death sentence from the doc, might be cruel, but it was the only way to wake him up from his love-struck delusion. I led him to a VIP room, the door slightly ajar. From our spot, we could easily see a tall, elegant man sitting beside the bed. Alex's pupils instantly shrunk. It was Marcus, and he had his daughter with him. Auntie Mia, I'll agree to you being my mommy, but I don't want any brothers or sisters. The little girl, only 3 or 4, spoke with innocent frankness. Marcus pretended to scold his daughter. Anna, don't say such things. This is Uncle Tom's baby, not your brother or sister. Alex stood frozen, his body stiff. He looked at me in confusion. Listen carefully, I mouthed to him. The next moment, Mia's voice rang out. Marcus, you know I never wanted this child. Marcus sighed. Mia, I was too late. You got married and now you're pregnant. The doc said it's not advisable for you to conceive. This child is a miracle. We should just let it be. Mia's emotions flared up. No, why should we let it be? I've settled for 10 years. I'll abort this child and divorce Alex. It's not too late for anything. Alex trembled with rage, ready to burst into the room, but I held him back with all my strength. You stay here and listen. Inside, the despicable pair continued their conversation. But this will harm your body too much. I don't care, Marcus. As long as you don't mind, I'll treat Anna as my own daughter. She was so humble and servile before her unforgettable first love. I sneered at Alex and whispered, "See how low she stoops for another guy. And what's her attitude towards you?" Alex's face turned ashen. I knew it all too well. Mia had married me out of desperation after Marcus ditched her and moved abroad. She just needed someone to settle for. Her passion, gentleness, and care. Those were reserved for Marcus. What about Alex? He'd been with me for 10 years, after all. Mia scoffed with disdain. I've given him 10 years of my youth. Isn't that enough? He should be grateful he could marry me. Damn it. Even after living another lifetime, hearing those words made me want to storm in and beat them both. I let go of Alex's hand and gestured, "Now you can go in." But to my surprise, the furious Alex from a moment ago now looked utterly hopeless. He glanced at me, then, with a bitter smile, turned and walked away. What the hell? Aren't you going to confront them? Aren't you going to deal with this deceitful woman and her lover? I looked at my own frail, skeletal body, gritted my teeth, and swallowed my anger as I chased after Alex, dragging my weakened frame. I struggled to catch up to him at the hospital entrance. Damn it, why is he running so fast? Is he really thinking of ending it all? Did I overdo it with the shock? Panic started to set in. If he dies now, what's the point of my rebirth? Hey, Alex, where are you going? Let's go back to the hospital for treatment. Don't follow me. Hey, just because you say don't follow doesn't mean I'm going to listen. I'm following. He turned back, saw me trailing him, and shouted at me in anger. Get lost. I didn't say a word, just watched him silently. Alex avoided my gaze and then buried his head, quickly walking 2 more blocks, seeing me still gasping for breath yet stubbornly following him. Alex finally snapped. I told you to get lost. Didn't you hear me? Why are you so damn annoying? I'm not going to the hospital. Just let me die already. My wife doesn't care about me. So why are you sticking around? Being such a pain. I've lost everything anyway. My marriage is a failure. I've got a terminal illness. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, and slowly walked up to him. Let's go back to the hospital. Are you deaf? Huh? I told you to get lost. I said I'm not getting treatment. If you keep pushing me, I'll just throw myself in front of a car right now. Slap. I raised my hand and slapped Alex hard across the face. He clutched his cheek and glared at me in anger. I glared back, my chest heaving, and when I finally spoke, my voice was choked with emotion. Is Mia your entire world? Do you even remember that your parents only have one child? You're willing to die for a woman, but what about the parents who raised you? Mia, maybe you're everything to yourself, but you are your parents' everything too. I'm begging you, you've wasted 10 years of your life. Can you stop being so blinded by love and see the people who truly care about you? Even if it's just for them, can you live on? Don't make them bury their child with their own hands. He silently followed me back to the hospital. I didn't want to talk to him either. I snatched the documents and ID from his hand and went to handle the admission procedures, then dragged Alex to the oncology department. He seemed to have lost all his spirit, letting me do whatever I wanted without saying a word. I knew how hard it was to accept all of this. In my past life, it wasn't until after I died that I realized clinging to life is better than giving up. My mom, my dad, they surely wished I could have lived, even if just for one more day. But when I was still alive, I didn't spare them a single thought. My mind was completely consumed by Mia. It wasn't until after I died that I felt guilt. It's a debt I'll never be able to repay. I don't want this Alex to leave his parents with nothing but endless regret and sorrow. I found a kind-hearted nurse and asked her to keep a close eye on Alex, making sure he didn't do anything foolish in a moment of despair. Then I went downstairs to find a public phone. It took a long time to muster the courage, but with trembling fingers, I finally dialed the number etched deep in my heart. The phone rang and my heart pounded like a drum. Hello? Who is this? The moment I heard my mother's familiar voice on the other end, I almost couldn't stop myself from crying. I quickly bit down on my hand, taking several deep breaths to hold back the flood of tears. Who are you looking for? Did you dial the wrong number? My mother, puzzled by my silence, asked again. Forcing myself to swallow the lump in my throat, I spoke in a muffled voice. Ma'am, Auntie, I'm Alex's friend. Oh, you're Alex's friend. Hello, hello. How is he doing lately? The moment I mentioned being Alex's friend, her tone turned excited. My tears finally began to fall. In my past life, because my parents opposed my marriage to Mia, I angrily took the household registration book and secretly registered our marriage with her. After it was all said and done, my dad was so furious he wanted to cut ties with us. He said, "That Mia girl isn't sincere with you. You two aren't on the same page. What's the point of a life like that?" But I was stubborn. At the time, I thought it was enough just to marry the person I loved. I believed she'd eventually be moved by my dedication. So, in my past life, I married Mia with a heart full of naive bravery. As expected, our life was a mess, and my dad's words came true. I was too ashamed to contact my parents. As a result, they never got to see me before I passed away. It's one of the biggest regrets I had in life. I don't want Alex to lose the last moments he could spend with his parents because of his pride and stubbornness. Auntie Alex, he's sick. I've been thinking about it, and I think I should tell you. You and Uncle should come see him. There was sudden silence on the other end. After a long pause, a trembling male voice came through. It was my father. My dear child, what kind of illness does Alex have? Don't hide it from us. Big tears rolled down my cheeks. It's stomach cancer. Perhaps the only love in this world that asks for nothing in return is the love of parents. The afternoon after Alex was admitted to the hospital, his parents arrived. They found Alex in his room, receiving liver protection treatment and preparing for chemo. The three of them hugged tightly and cried. I hid quietly outside the hospital room, watching the now hunched backs of my parents, my eyes welling up with tears. How deluded must I have been in my past life to hurt my parents so deeply for a deceitful woman like Mia? As I looked at their backs, I slapped myself hard. With my parents here, Alex should no longer do anything foolish for Mia. I took one last reluctant look at my parents, wiped away my tears, and left. Next, I had to do what I should have done in my past life. When Alex wasn't paying attention, I took his phone and returned to the home Mia and I shared. I went to the study, where I knew Mia kept her tablet. She had set this device as a trusted device on WeChat, so I could log in directly. I opened her chat history with Marcus and sneered, "Mia, I regret it. I'm only now realizing that you're the one I truly love. Marcus." I feel the same way. One wrong step led to another. My biggest regret in this life is marrying Alex. Even though he's done so much for me, I'm still so unhappy. A marriage without love is like a grave. I understand you. It's okay. I'll always be by your side, expecting nothing in return. Message after message. It was all Mia and Marcus's long complaints about their suffocating marriages. I had already seen these in my past life. So now I could calmly take screenshots of all these records. Over the 10 years, Mia and I had been in Shenzhen. We started a company together. The company, Littlebug Tech, specializes in developing smart home appliances. In the past 2 years, this sector had exploded, and the company's valuation had skyrocketed. We secured Series C funding and had already engaged investment banks and law firms to prepare for an IPO. Going public on the STAR market was within reach, but I knew Mia wouldn't let me have a share. In half a month, she would come home, throw a divorce agreement at me, and offer me only 1,000,000 yuan. Back then, blinded by love, I didn't even ask for any shares in the company. Other than my title as a co-founder, I was basically just drawing a salary. 10 years of hard work, and all I'd get was 1,000,000 yuan. And 1,000,000 yuan wasn't even enough for Mia to hire a department director. So this time around, I wasn't going to let her use that divorce agreement to insult me. Instead, I was going to ruin her reputation first. I logged into Littlebug Tech's official account and posted all the screenshots at once. When Marcus returned to China, Mia had arranged for him to take the CFO position at the company. He came in as an external hire, demoting the original finance director who had been with us from the start. This move had already caused quite a bit of discontent within the company. I went all out on the official account. Not only did I make a video exposing Mia and Marcus's affair, but I also revealed that Mia planned to abort our child for her affair with Marcus. Then I posted my cancer diagnosis, playing the victim, and wrote posts condemning Mia. In no time, these posts blew up the internet. At that moment, Mia had just finished her abortion and was resting in the hospital. By the time she got the news, it was too late. I watched as Mia, who never used to contact me first, kept calling Alex's phone. I ignored every call. The finance director called me, and I bluntly told him, "There's an improper relationship between the CFO and the CEO. How do you think the IPO committee will react? There's no way we can go public like this." He immediately understood what I meant and turned excited. "Got it, Mr. Wong. We'll vote to remove the CFO right away." Marcus was kicked out of Little Bug Tech in disgrace. Apparently the blow hurt him, and he panicked, messaging me to distance himself. "Alex, this is too much. I know you have some misunderstandings about me, but doing this will only push Mia further away. You and your wife need to talk things out. Don't bring personal issues into work. They're two separate things." So he can get anxious too. When they were hurting others, neither Mia nor Marcus felt any guilt. It's only when their interests were threatened that they started to panic. These two scumbags kept calling and messaging me, but I didn't respond. I just quietly waited at home. Sure enough, the next day, Mia came home. I could hear her heavy footsteps at the door, full of anger and ready to lash out. Marcus was with her, and through the door, I could hear him feigning concern as he tried to calm Mia down. "Mia, take it easy. Try to talk things through with Alex. You have to get him to make a statement that this was all just a misunderstanding." I quietly walked to the entrance and heard Mia's furious voice. "If he has the guts, he should just divorce me. I'm fed up. What's the point of talking to him now? He's turned the company into a mess. He needs to leave with nothing. I've spoiled him for too long." "Mia, he's not worth getting so angry over. You just had surgery. You shouldn't get too worked up. Let's talk some sense into him, and if that doesn't work, we can give him a little money to get rid of him." Money, I was going to give him $1,000,000 before, but now that he's messed up my company, I won't give him a single cent. Then I heard the sound of the password lock opening. Mia stormed in, full of rage, with Marcus close behind her, worried she might do something rash. Neither of them noticed me leaning against the door. "Alex, get out here." I smiled slightly and raised the stun gun, ready to greet these two scumbags. "Hi, I'm right here." I watched coldly as Mia let out a scream before collapsing to the floor, unconscious from the shock. Marcus, terrified, staggered backward. "Alex, calm down. Don't do anything stupid. It's not worth it over a woman. Mia and I really just had a few meals together." "It's her. She's the one who can't let go of me," he stammered, trying to reach the door behind me. But unfortunately for him, once he was in, there was no way out. Marcus, in a panic, tripped over my outstretched foot and fell to the ground. He knelt in front of me and said, "Alex, I was wrong. I shouldn't have contacted Mia. Please forgive me. Mia is just an unfaithful woman. It takes two to tango." "Right, you can't blame it all on me. We're both men. When something like this hits you, you don't just pass it up." "Right," I chuckled. "Marcus, you were so bold when you were secretly sending me taunting texts. Is this all the courage you've got?" Marcus was really a coward. Even in my weakened state, I could scare him into kneeling and begging. If he had dared to fight back even a little, I might have respected him more. Marcus was sweating bullets, his eyes darting around in fear. "I swear, I'll leave the country and never come back. I won't fight you for Mia. I was just playing around with her, scamming her for some money. I'll return everything she bought me. I won't tell anyone what happened here." I crouched down in front of the sweat-drenched Marcus and smiled at him. "I never said it was all your fault. That's why I'm dealing with both of you, isn't it?" Just as Marcus was halfway through his plea, Mia began to stir on the floor and, waking up, overheard what he was saying. Her face twisted in disbelief. "Marcus, what did you just say?" Then she turned to me. "Alex, I wasn't going to let them say anything more. I shocked them both unconscious again. Mia would have begged for mercy, no doubt, but I wasn't going to waste time on useless apologies. Anyone can offer those meaningless, insincere apologies, but in my past life, I lost mine. After setting things up, I turned and left. When Marcus wakes up, he'll find himself heading to prison. He won't be able to explain it away because in this life, Alex is already in the hospital with a solid alibi. And once I disappear, there will be no trace of me left in this world. This is the last thing I can do for this life's Alex. In my past life, I stubbornly refused treatment, partly because I was broke. I foolishly gave up my shares in the company, and since it was my own business, didn't care about not getting a salary. I even used Mia's supplementary credit card for my expenses. I put all my money into our home, and Mia still wanted to destroy me. Cancer treatment, chemo, surgery, targeted therapy, or immunotherapy all require a lot of money. Only if Mia is gone can Alex, as her husband, legally inherit the assets and afford his cancer treatment. And he won't have to burden his elderly parents with huge medical bills. After I finished everything, the Grim Reaper appeared beside me and sighed. You originally loved Mia selflessly in your past life, which was a merit, so I gave you another chance at life. Mia and Marcus's actions were bound to lead to their downfall. Someone else would have punished them eventually. Why dirty your own hands? Do you realize that by doing this, you've cut off your path to reincarnation in the next life? I smiled faintly. Punishment delivered by others can't compare to the satisfaction of doing it yourself. Right. I held out my hands for the Grim Reaper to cuff me in chains. Now, have you truly fulfilled your wish? I nodded, a satisfied expression on my face. Yes, I've fulfilled my wish. Reaper, thank you. Present day. From Alex's perspective. I realized old Alex was gone the day my parents suddenly showed up in Shenzhen. At that time, I was still drowning in the pain of Mia wanting to abort our child. Seeing my parents, whom I hadn't seen in 10 years, standing in front of me with their heads full of white hair, I was dumbfounded. They told me a friend had informed them that I had cancer. That damn old Alex. I hadn't wanted to tell my parents. But when I saw my mother's red, swollen eyes, I couldn't hold back my tears of grief. How embarrassing. A 30-year-old man still crying like a child. I thought my dad would scold me like he did when I was a kid. A man doesn't cry. But instead, he trembled as he touched my head, choking up as he apologized for saying we should sever our father-son relationship. The three of us held each other and cried. There's no such thing as lasting grudges between parents and children, especially when facing life and death. What can't be forgiven? I reconciled with my parents. I wanted to introduce them to old Alex, but he never showed up again. I quietly asked the nurse, but she looked at me in confusion. Who are you talking about? I was stunned. On the day I was admitted, it was old Alex who had arranged for the nurse to come. How could she not remember him? And then there was the phone I had been searching for. The next day, I found it on the bedside table. It was baffling. I distinctly remembered searching that bedside table last night, and there was no phone in sight. I suddenly remembered what old Alex had said when we first met. He said he was from the future, that he was the future me. Could such a strange thing really exist in this world? When old Alex comes back to the hospital, I'm definitely going to ask him about it. But I waited, and instead of him, the police showed up. Alex? The female officer taking the statement was sharp and confident. My hopeless weakness for pretty faces kicked in when I saw her clear, righteous expression. Even the discomfort from the chemo seemed to ease a bit. When she asked the question again, I mumbled a vague response. Yes, that's me. What's your relationship with Mia? Why bring up that wretched woman's name again? How unlucky. Oh, she's my cheating wife? The female officer hesitated for a moment. When did you get admitted to the hospital? I pointed to the patient information at the head of my bed. It's there. I don't remember the exact date. I was hooked up to chemo, my whole body aching, not really wanting to move. She stood up, checked the info, and jotted down the date in her notebook. How was your relationship with your wife? I rolled my eyes. What do you think? She cheated on me and can't wait to be the stepmother to her first love's kid. She thinks I'm in her way. But the officer pressed on. First love? Is his name Marcus? My suspicion grew, and a hunch started to form. Yes, him. He's been entangled with my wife ever since he came back to the country with his daughter. The officer asked me a few more questions, mostly about my whereabouts, when she confirmed that I had been in the hospital the whole time. She left, and my mom quickly stood up to see her out. They were gone for a while, and when they returned, my mom looked both relieved and disgusted. Mom, what's going on? What happened? Mia was killed by that man, her lover. What happened was the sudden night my parents arrived in Shenzhen. I told them everything about my marriage to Mia. My dad was so angry he wanted to go after Marcus. It took a lot of effort to calm him down. He was still planning to teach them a lesson after I got out of the hospital. But now this. Ever since my mom learned about my terminal illness, the frown lines on her face had deepened. But now they finally eased a little. With Mia dead, you can inherit her estate, and you won't have to worry about treatment costs anymore. That's right. Mia was an illegitimate child, abandoned by her mother at a young age and raised in an orphanage. That's why Marcus initially looked down on her. If it wasn't for the success of our business, Marcus wouldn't have given her a second glance. I was surprised to find that I wasn't particularly sad about Mia's death. In fact, I found myself thinking about Alex more than I thought about her. During my time in the hospital, I gradually learned more details about the case. Marcus was identified as the murderer, but he kept insisting he was framed and that the real killer was me, Alex. When the police questioned my mom about it, she cursed at them for a good half hour because at the time of the incident, I had already been in the hospital receiving treatment, and the hospital surveillance proved I never left. But Marcus kept insisting that he had indeed seen me at home. He repeatedly urged the police to check the neighborhood surveillance footage from that day, but they didn't find any trace of me. The police suspected he was faking insanity to escape legal punishment. That lover is pretty bold, lying through his teeth. You were too sick from chemo to even stand up, yet he claims you sneaked back home to frame them. It's clearly a case of them turning on each other. I smiled. Maybe I really did kill them. You know, another version of me. My mom clicked her tongue in disapproval. What nonsense are you talking about? By the way, where's that boy who contacted us? Why hasn't he come to see you? We need to thank him properly. I tilted my head, blinking back the tears welling up in my eyes. He's always been here. After 8 grueling rounds of chemo, enduring hair loss, jaundice, ascites, mouth ulcers, rashes, blisters, and all the other complications and side effects, I finally saw the light at the end of the tunnel. I looked at the face in the mirror that was starting to resemble Alex's skeletal features and smiled. So many times, I got through it by looking at that face in the mirror. My mom couldn't bear to see me suffer like that and often went out to cry. But I was confident because I knew there was another me up there, watching over me. I survived this painful and difficult journey. At my follow-up appointment, the doc looked at my CT scans and marveled at my survival. It wasn't in vain. All the effort you put in? The chemo was successful. The metastasis has disappeared, and the primary tumor has shrunk by 1/3. You've successfully downstaged and are now eligible for surgery. Being eligible for surgery meant my survival chances had increased. The doc, seeing my parents cry tears of joy, also smiled and patted my shoulder. You've done well. Go home, rest up, and we'll proceed with the surgery. After that, a few more rounds of chemo for consolidation. And with targeted therapy, you've got a good chance of making it 5 years. If the cancer doesn't recur within 5 years, it's considered cured clinically, and it's all thanks to old Alex. I got up and slowly walked out into the garden. The sun outside was bright, and I closed my eyes, feeling the warmth of the sunlight. Alex, thank you. A gentle breeze brushed against my cheek, as if he was saying, "You're welcome."